Fantasy football isn't won by memorizing rankings. It's won by understanding opportunity. And opportunity starts with the environment. Before you learn rankings, learn the environment. This is the fantasy football ecosystem. Know the environment. Draft better.
We are now in the fantasy football ecosystem. I'm JW. Before you learn rankings, learn the environment. Fantasy managers spend the summer memorizing names, rankings, and average draft position. But a player can keep the same talent in the same uniform while everything around him changes. The coach, the quarterback, the offensive line, the competition for touches, and the way those touches are created. That is why we work through the same sequence every time. Environment leads to opportunity, opportunity creates production, and production eventually shapes rankings. The AFC North makes that process especially important this season. 3 teams changed head coaches. Multiple offenses changed play callers. One team has an unresolved quarterback competition. Another added enough established talent that the offense may improve, while individual volume becomes harder to project. The names may be familiar. The ecosystems are not. Let's build the AFC North. Baltimore is an elite offensive core entering a major structural transition. Cincinnati is the division's cleanest and most concentrated passing environment, with health as the largest threat to an established hierarchy. Cleveland is a full offensive reset, new leadership, an open quarterback competition, a rebuilt line, and several important health questions. Pittsburgh is a veteran win-now offense with more credible weapons, but less certainty about where the weekly volume will concentrate. 4 teams, 4 different draft problems. Baltimore still has the division's highest combination of proven fantasy talent and explosive potential. Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Derrick Henry as the primary runner, and Zay Flowers leading the receivers, with Mark Andrews at tight end. The major change is the structure around them. Jesse Minter replaces John Harbaugh as head coach. Tyler Linderbaum left for Las Vegas, and Baltimore added veteran Ethan Pochik to help stabilize the middle of the offensive line. The rebuilt interior still has to establish its cohesion during camp. This is not a personnel rebuild, it's an elite offensive core entering a new coaching system with a first-time NFL play caller and a changing line. That distinction matters. Baltimore still has enough established talent to produce at an elite level, but fantasy managers should not simply copy the old Ravens offense into a new season and assume every role or tendency will remain identical. Jesse Minter is the head coach, with Declan Doyle as the offensive coordinator. According to current Ravens reporting, he will call the offensive plays. Doyle coordinated Chicago's offense in 2025, but Ben Johnson handled the play calling. Baltimore is therefore giving Doyle his first NFL opportunity to control the call sheet. The likely goal is to preserve the physical run game while giving Jackson more adaptable passing answers. Increased 3 receiver usage is possible, not established though. The Ravens may also use Durham Smythe as a blocker or hybrid personnel piece without treating him as a featured receiving tight end. Until Baltimore shows the offense in games, formations, pace, and target distribution, all remain projections. The talent is proven. Doyle's method of connecting it is not. The environment begins with Lamar Jackson. Jackson changes defensive numbers before the snap. His rushing threat improves blocking angles for the designed run game and gives him fantasy production even when passing volume is modest. Injuries interrupted his 2025 season, but the dual threat ceiling remains intact. Derrick Henry defines the rushing identity. He has the clearest path to early down carries, game-closing volume, and goal line work. Jackson will claim part of the rushing production himself, but his presence generally helps Henry by forcing defenders to account for the quarterback. The concern with Henry is his age. He enters his age 32 year, so declining risk belongs in the price, even though there is no established challenger for the primary job. Zay Flowers defines the receiving game. He has the clearest path to lead the wide receiver in targets, first reads, and manufactured touches. His role is already strong. The next step would come from Doyle creating more valuable red zone and touchdown opportunities from the volume Flowers already earns. For a normal 12-team, 1-quarterback redraft league, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers are drafted with confidence. Jackson's rushing keeps him in the elite quarterback tier. Henry retains the best carry and touchdown path in the backfield. Flowers combines target clarity, explosiveness, and room for additional scoring production. Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman are drafted with a price check. Andrews benefits from Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kolar leaving the roster, which clears receiving competition at the tight end position. He remains the most established middle of the field and red zone target, but his age, recent volatility, and a potentially different personnel mix prevent us from automatically restoring his old target goals. Bateman remains the established outside and vertical complement. His real life role helps the offense, but his weekly targets have been less dependable than his value to Baltimore. Draft him when the price reflects that volatility. Justice Hill is considered late. He has the clearest veteran path to complementary carries, passing down work and relief snaps behind Henry. His strongest value remains contingent on Henry missing time. The deeper group belongs on waiver watch. Jacoby Lane, Elijah Surratt, and Devontae Walker are competing for receiving routes. The opportunity in the draft lens is high. Jackson, Henry, and Flowers have established access to the football, and Andrews faces less receiving competition at tight end. Concentration is medium, the core is clear, but Jackson spreads production among design runs, scrambles, tight ends, and situational receivers. Risk is at medium. Jackson's recent injury interruptions, Henry's age, the rebuilt interior line, and Doyle's first season calling plays create meaningful uncertainty. Though the upside is high, a healthy Jackson surrounded by Henry, Flowers, and Andrews can still support one of the league's most productive fantasy environments. Your memory hook for the draft is Lamar creates the ceiling, Henry controls the ground game, Flowers owns the clearest receiving role. The new structure must prove everything else, but it can connect everything. Cincinnati has the division's cleanest offensive hierarchy. Joe Burrow is the starting quarterback, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins remain the two receiving pillars. Chase Brown remains the lead running back, and unlike the other AFC North teams, Cincinnati is not rebuilding its offensive identity or installing a new system. The Bengals are maintaining continuity around a proven passing structure. The largest environmental variable is health. Burrow missed 9 games in 2025 with a toe injury before returning for the final 6. Joe Flacco re-signed his experienced backup insurance, but the fantasy ceiling still depends on Burrow being available. Zach Taylor remains the head coach and offensive play caller. Dan Pitcher remains the offensive coordinator. That continuity matters because the Bengals do not need to discover their identity during camp. Burrow already understands the structure. Chase and Higgins already know where they fit. Brown has already demonstrated that he can handle the central backfield role. Cincinnati can adjust details without changing the basic flow of the ecosystem. Burrow controls the environment with accuracy, pre-snap identification, and the willingness to direct the passing game towards his best matchups. Chase is the primary receiver and the strongest candidate to lead in targets, first reads, and explosive opportunities. Higgins remains fully important to the environment as the established second receiving pillar and primary boundary complement. His size and red zone value punish defenses that shift too much attention towards Chase. Brown gives Cincinnati a 3-down back who can create fantasy value through carries and receptions. He protects his weekly floor through the passing game, even when the Bengals lean towards Burrow. The hierarchy is settled. The uncertainty begins after those players. Joe Burrow and Chase Brown are drafted with confidence. Chase combines elite talent with elite target concentration. Burrow remains a premium one quarterback option, although the most mobile elite quarterbacks offer more rushing. Brown has proven he can lead the backfield and contribute heavily as a receiver. T. Higgins is a draft with price check. His role is secure and his touchdown upside is real. But Chase remains first in the target hierarchy. Higgins can produce an excellent season without matching the weekly volume of a true number 1 receiver. Gesicki, P. Ryan, and Yoshi Voss are considered late. Gesicki offers receiving ability and a strong offense, but Cincinnati's tight end room is deep and his 2025 season was interrupted by injury. P. Ryan is an experienced complementary back who can handle pass protection, relief work, and selected passing situations without threatening Brown's central role. Yoshi Voss enters camp with the most established experience for the third receiver job, but that role may still sit behind Chase, Higgins, and Brown in the weekly progression. Flacco is an important real-life insurance, but he's not on the fantasy spine in a normal one-quarterback draft unless Burrow becomes unavailable. Draft lens. Opportunity is high. The major roles are established. Concentration is high. Cincinnati intentionally routes production through Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Brown. Risk is medium. Burrow's availability affects the entire ecosystem. Higgins has also had previous availability concerns. The upside is high. A healthy Bengals offense can support an elite quarterback, 2 high-level receivers, and a 3-down fantasy back. Your memory hook for the draft is Burrow drives the environment, Chase and Higgins control the passing game, Brown owns the backfield, health is the largest threat to the established hierarchy. Cleveland is the division's most unsettled offensive ecosystem. The Browns are installing a new system, rebuilding the offensive line, and conducting a legitimate quarterback competition. Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders remain the leading candidates for the starting job, and no starter has been named through July 26th. Watson is returning after an Achilles rupture, a second rupture during rehabilitation, and a missed 2025 season. Sanders started 7 games as a rookie, but did not establish the job as permanently his. The quarterback decision affects more than who takes the snaps. The winner's playing style will determine whether Cleveland can consistently support Harold Fannin Jr. over the middle, Jerry Jeudy outside, and the younger receivers downfield. The Browns also rebuilt major portions of the offensive line. That line may improve, but new personnel must develop cohesion while learning a new system. Cleveland therefore enters camp with possible opportunity, but very little settled efficiency. Todd Monken is the head coach and offensive play caller, while Travis Switzer is the offensive coordinator. Monken has emphasized building around player strengths and creating multiple ways to score. His history with Baltimore raises the schematic ceiling, particularly for the run game and for flexible receiving pieces such as Fannin. But Cleveland does not inherit Baltimore's personnel, offensive line, or Lamar Jackson's effect on defenders. The Browns must establish their own quarterback, protection system, and identity. That makes the coaching change promising without making it automatically productive. Scheme can improve the Pats' opportunity. It cannot guarantee quarterback execution, healthy players, or efficient blocking. Quinshon Judkins has the clearest path to lead Cleveland in carries. As a rookie, he led the team in rushing before dislocating his ankle and fracturing his fibula. Judkins participated in OTAs, mandatory minicamp, which is encouraging, but spring work does not prove readiness for a complete regular season workload. His talent creates the upside, his recovery, the rebuilt line, and the eventual quarterback create the risk. If Cleveland sustains drives, Judkins appears positioned for early down and goal line opportunity. While Dylan Sampson offers a different skill set and may earn receiving or complementary work, but the exact division is not established. Fannin has the clearest path to becoming Cleveland's leading receiving option. He led Cleveland in receptions as a rookie, and David Njoku's departure removes a major competitor for tight end routes and targets. What remains unsettled is how Monken uses him and how quickly he builds a connection with the eventual starting quarterback. The third element is the quarterback competition itself. Until Cleveland names and evaluates a starter, available opportunity cannot be translated confidently into production. No Cleveland player currently belongs in a draft with confidence. That is a statement about uncertainty, not a claim that the roster lacks talent. Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin Jr., and Jerry Jeudy are drafted with a price check. Judkins is the projected favorite to lead the backfield if healthy. He has the clearest carry and touchdown path, but his price must reflect the leg injury, the rebuilt line, and uncertainty in the scoring environment. A back can lead a weak offense in carries and still disappoint if the blocking, game script, and road zone chances fail. Fannin has the strongest breakout path after Njoku's departure. He is a full participant entering camp, and his rookie production gives him a credible route to lead Cleveland in receptions again. But he is learning a new system and does not yet know which quarterback will direct the offense. Jeudy remains Cleveland's most established wide receiver. He has a plausible path to lead the wideouts in targets and first reads, but last year's volume did not produce efficient or high-scoring results. Quarterback quality and target placement matter as much as the raw numbers of opportunities. Dylan Sampson, Cedric Tillman, and Isaiah Bond are considered late candidates. Sampson offers receiving ability and contingent value if Judkins' recovery is interrupted. His standalone share is not established. Tillman must retain a stable outside role in a changing receiver room, and Bond enters his second season with a path to more routes, but he has not yet secured a full-time role. The winner of the Watson-Sanders competition belongs in waiver watch in a one-quarterback league. Winning the starting job matters enormously to the Browns, but it does not automatically create a top 12 fantasy production. Watson's health and mobility must be evaluated, while Sanders must prove he can process the new system and deliver consistently on schedule. The developmental group also belongs on waiver watch. Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion are competing for receiver roles, Joe Royer for work behind Fannin. The draft lens. Opportunity is medium. Judkins, Fannin, and Jeudy have credible paths to major volume, but each path depends on conditions that are not fully settled. Concentration, medium. The offense could eventually concentrate around those three, but the receiver competition and quarterback decision prevent a higher rating. The risk is high. The starters are unsettled. Watson is returning from Achilles ruptures, and Judkins is returning from a major leg injury. The line is rebuilt and the system is new. Upsides at medium, as Monken can create a better structure and the young players can grow, but competent quarterback play and functional blocking must arrive first. So your draft memory hook is the available opportunity is real, the quarterback efficiency and role clarity are not settled. Price is the uncertainty before buying the upside. Pittsburgh is building a veteran win-now offense with more established options. Aaron Rodgers remains Pittsburgh's starting quarterback. DK Metcalf remains the leading outside receiver. The Steelers also acquired Michael Pittman from Indianapolis, signed Rico Dowdle after his consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and drafted Jeremy Bernard in the second round. The offense now has more credible answers at wide receiver and running back. The central fantasy problem is that a stronger offense can still produce less predictable individual volume. Pittsburgh may create more sustained drives and better matchups while distributing targets and touches among Metcalf, Pittman, the tight ends, Jalen Warren, and Dowdle. The team environment is improving. The individual hierarchy is less concentrated. Mike McCarthy is the head coach and has confirmed that he will call offensive plays. Brian Anglico is the offensive coordinator. McCarthy's history with Rodgers should reduce part of the learning curve. They share years of experience with protection adjustments, quarterback checks, and situational football. But this is not Pete Green Bay recreated in Pittsburgh. Rodgers is older, the supporting cast is different, and McCarthy's offense has evolved. Pittsburgh also has reasons to retain a physical rushing identity. The likely structure should give Rodgers more answers without requiring the offense to become one of the league's highest volume passing attacks. The coaching reunion raises confidence in the organization of the offense. It does not settle how the fantasy volume will be divided. Rodgers controls the distribution. He's important to the entire ecosystem because he determines protection, matchup selection, and where the ball goes. But his real-life importance is different from his quarterback fantasy value. His rushing ceiling is limited, and Pittsburgh may not generate enough passing volume to make him a priority draft selection. Metcalf remains the leading explosive boundary target and the best candidate to lead Pittsburgh in receiving yards and touchdowns. Pittman should make it more difficult for defenders to tilt coverage entirely towards Metcalf. That can improve the offense and potentially improve Metcalf's efficiency. It can also reduce the need to force targets into unfavorable coverage. McCarthy is the third core figure because he controls the call sheet. His challenge is to improve the whole offense without spreading the most valuable opportunities beyond dependable fantasy concentration. No Pittsburgh player receives an unconditional draft with confidence placement because few volume profiles are uncontested. DK Metcalf and Jalen Warren are drafted with a price check. Metcalf remains the strongest candidate to lead in receiving yards, explosive plays, and touchdowns. Pittman and Bernard give Rodgers more alternatives, so fantasy managers should not assume that an improved offense automatically produces a major target increase for Metcalf. Warren has proven that he can produce as a runner and receiver, but Dowdle gives Pittsburgh another established back who has exceeded 1,000 rushing yards in consecutive seasons. Warren may retain the stronger receiving role, while early down and goal line work remain open. Michael Pittman, Rico Dowdle, and Pratt Freiermuth are considered late candidates. Pittman should hold a substantial real-life role as an intermediate and possession target. His fantasy ceiling depends on passing volume, red zone involvement, and target priority behind Metcalf. Dowdle was added with a credible opportunity to earn frontline duties, but no specific carry or goal line role has been established. He could lead portions of the rushing workload without becoming the exclusive back. Draft him as part of an unresolved division, not as Warren's confirmed replacement. Freiermuth remains the leading receiving tight end as a late option. McCarthy and Anglico both have experience incorporating tight ends, but Metcalf, Pittman, the backs, and the other tight ends create substantial target competition. Rodgers belongs on waiver watch in a one-quarterback league. He can run the real offense efficiently and still finish outside the weekly fantasy starters because of limited rushing and potentially moderate passing volume. The deeper group should be monitored together. Bernard and Roman Wilson are competing for receiving routes. The winner may play meaningful snaps while remaining behind Metcalf, Pittman, Freiermuth, and the backs in the target order. The backfield's goal line division deserves particular attention. A productive Warren Dowdle committee can help Pittsburgh win while preventing either player from receiving the concentration required for a dependable fantasy running back one season. Total backfield production and individual fantasy value are not the same thing. Our draft lens. Opportunity is medium. Pittsburgh has several capable players, but most are sharing the ecosystem with credible competition. Concentration is at medium, with Metcalf remaining the first among the receivers, but Pittman, the tight ends, and the back give Rodgers alternatives. Warren and Dowdle can divide the backfield in multiple ways. Risk is at medium as Rodgers' age, a new coaching structure, and an unresolved touchdown distribution create uncertainty even though the roster is deeper. Upside is high. If Rodgers and McCarthy translate the familiarity into an efficient modern offense, Pittsburgh has enough talent to improve both the passing game and the run game. Your draft memory hook is Rodgers and McCarthy raise the structure. Metcalf provides the explosion. The deeper roster can improve the offense while making every individual draft price more important. So what to remember from this episode on the AFC North? Baltimore offers the highest division's combined ceiling, but a new play caller and a changing offensive line create transition risk. Cincinnati offers the cleanest hierarchy. Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Brown control the value of opportunities, with health as the largest threat. Cleveland offers young talent and available volume, but the quarterback competition, injury recovery, and rebuilt line demand patience. Pittsburgh offers a stronger collection of proven players, but the improved environment may distribute production more widely. And that is why we start with the environment. A good offense can contain an uncertain role. A rebuilding offense can still produce valuable opportunity. A starting NFL quarterback can remain a fantasy waiver option, and an improved roster can lower individual concentration. Rankings provide the forecast, the ecosystem provides the framework for using it. Before you learn rankings, learn the environment. And remember, know the environment, draft better.